The more data we start to get in Excel 2010, the easier it is to get lost in all these values. So there's a number of tools in Excel that allow us to get around this issue, and that's what we're going to go over in this video. Now, the majority of these tools are always going to be found on your View tab, so that's where I am in this example. And you'll notice I got a list of all my products here. I've got a whole bunch of different regions, and while it's not too long, it definitely has a tendency of becoming a little bit overwhelming in some areas. As the further I scroll down here, I lose my column headers, and if I scroll horizontally too far right, I lose my products. So that's what we're going to look at with my first tool. I'm going to go back to the top here, and again, I'm in my View tab. We're going to check out what this Freeze Panes does, and this is really nice because it keeps your columns from going off the screen, and it also keeps some of your rows from doing the same as well. Now, the key is you've got to have your cursor positioned below and to the right of the columns and the rows that you'd like to freeze. So I'm going to put my cursor here in B6 because I want all my columns to stay on my screen, and I want all of my products on the left here to stay on my screen. So when I do that, I'll go up to Freeze Panes, and I'll click on just the first option in this drop down, Freeze Panes. Now when I scroll up or down, my rows stay frozen, and then when I scroll right or left horizontally, my products stay frozen. So that's great. I never lose what one of my values is representing and what region or what product it is. So that's a nice handy tool. To unfreeze these panes, you just go back to your Freeze Panes button, and the first choice will now be Unfreeze Panes. Okay, so that can definitely come in handy with larger amounts of information that you have in your workbooks. The next tool is, it's going to show us how we can actually see two different areas of our workbook or our worksheet at the same time. And we're going to be doing that by using our window tools. So again, I'm in my View tab, and I'm going to go ahead and restore my my current worksheet that I have open here. So I'm going to click on this button next to the X. Make sure it's not the red X or up here in the very top right, because that'll actually affect the whole program. We just want it to affect this current worksheet. So I'm going to click on this button next to the X. That will restore it down to a little bit smaller, and here I can zoom in or out as I need. But what I can also do is if I go back to my ribbon and I click my new window button, that's going to give me two windows of the same worksheet that I have open. So maybe I can look at one region on this window and a different region on the other window. But it's tough right now because they're overlapping. So we're going to go ahead and click on this Arrange All button, and this will allow us to see both windows. It'll resize them in equal proportions of your screen. So I'll click on Arrange All. It's going to give us a couple choices as far as tiled, horizontal, or how we want to arrange these windows. And let's see what each of them look like. So I'm going to keep it on tiled here, and I'll hit OK. So that's really nice. That gives it equal portions of the screen. And again, you know, I can go maybe to my north region on the left, and on the right here, if I want to look at my south region, I can see both these areas on the screen at the same time. Let's check out a couple of the other options. If I click back on Arrange All, I can do horizontal. This positions them on top and on bottom of each other. So I'm going to go back and let's try vertical this time. So in this case, it's the same as my tiled option, but if I had a couple more windows open, tiled would give me equal proportions, and it might not come out to this left and right vertical organization. So I'm going to try one more here. Let's see what Cascade looks like. I don't know if I like this one too much because this just positions them on top of one another. Okay, so that's a little confusing. I'm going to go back to my vertical. And notice if I go to, for example, F6 on one of my windows, and I, well actually let's try E6, and I change this from 8284, I'm going to change it to 8000, and then I'll hit enter. You'll notice that the change in my left-hand window is also reflected on the right-hand window when I go and look at it over there. So they're both the same file. Don't think of them as separate. They're both still connected, and whatever changes you make on one window will be reflected on the other window as well. Okay, I will go ahead and close this extra window here, so I'll hit the X there, and I'm going to go back and maximize this window to check out our other tools. And this last one we're going to do is how to split the worksheet. So this kind of achieves the same thing that we just saw, except it keeps your windows limited to one. So we're not organizing new windows here. We're keeping the same window open, and it works very similarly to Freeze Panes, except it gives you a little more control. So I'll go ahead and show you here. That's right next to your Freeze Panes. I'm going to go ahead and hit Split, and it gives me these vertical and horizontal gray bars. which effectively divides my worksheet up into 4 quadrants here. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how this kind of works. I can scroll up and down, and you'll notice it's kind of freezing the top rows, but it's scrolling up and down through the bottom rows. You'll also notice that it does not restrict you from viewing only one place within your 4 quadrants. So I can view all sorts of duplicate data here. It might be a little confusing if you're scrolling around here. It's all this data is connected, so if I make one change in one area, it's going to be reflected in the other 3 portions of the screen. But this is nice because I can change this split. It's dynamic. I can move this around wherever I want it to be, even after I make the split. So I can click and drag in the middle of the split and just move this to where I want. So if I go back to between my products and my regions, I'm going to go ahead and just scroll up and down. You'll kind of get a good idea how this works. Again, very similar to your freeze panes tool, but it just allows you for a little more flexibility, and it also allows you to see the same place in multiple areas of the screen. So I'm going to get rid of my split by just clicking that split button again. It takes it away. And our last tool we're going to look at here is just how to hide certain portions of your worksheet. So you can hide basically any area of your worksheet. You can hide columns, you can hide rows, you can even hide and unhide sheets. And that can be particularly handy if you're sending somebody a workbook and you don't want them to see a couple of your worksheets that are in your workbook. So you can go ahead and hide those before you send them to other people. Now, let's look at how we can do this with rows and columns first. Let's say maybe I don't want my north region here showing up. I can select the columns in that north region, and I'll do that by just clicking and dragging from B all the way to F. And then I can right click on any one of those columns and go down to my hide option right here. And when I click on that, it's as if it never was even there. Okay, the key to unhiding this though is a little bit trickier, since if you didn't know it was hidden in the first place, you wouldn't even know it was there. So what I usually like to do to make sure I have everything selected is do a select all from A, by hitting this box in between the A and the 1, and then I'll right click on any of the columns and I'll go down to unhide. Right, and it'll pop my north section right back up. If I wanted to hide a couple products, I can do the same here by just selecting some of the rows, and then I'll right click any of those rows and go down to hide, and that will hide those rows as well. To get them back, it's the same thing. I'll just go back between A and 1, I'll right click, and I'll go, actually I gotta right click a row here, and I'll go to unhide, and that will bring them back. Okay, you also have these options in your home tab. If you like using the ribbon, you can go back to home, you go over here to your format button, and you'll notice well, there's a visibility section here where you can hide and unhide, and you've got all your choices right here too. So that might be a little bit easier or clearer for some of you. The last thing is, well, if I wanted to do the same action I did to my rows and columns, but I wanted that to affect my entire sheet. So for example, maybe I didn't want this product details worksheet showing up when I sent it to people, so I can hide this entire sheet by right clicking, and I'll just choose hide, and that will again take that worksheet away as if it weren't even there. To bring it back, I've got to right click a currently selected sheet, or I've got to right click a currently unhidden sheet, and I'll go back up to unhide. It's going to ask me, well, what sheets do I want to unhide? And there's my product details sheet, so I'll hit OK, and it pops it right back up. Okay, finally, in terms of the interface, there's one other thing that you can hide, and again, this is kind of up to your personal preference. If this ribbon tends to get in your way, or you want just a little bit more workspace, you can minimize this ribbon. I like to always kind of keep it open because I like my controls up there, but you can definitely take it away if you'd like, and you can do so by just simply double clicking on any of these tabs. So I'm on my home tab here. If I double click that, you'll notice I still have my tabs, but that whole ribbon is now hidden. So if I double click it again, it comes right back. Okay, notice when it is hidden though, if I single click one of these tabs, it will still come up, but it's overlapping some of my data in my worksheet. So to circumvent that, just double click it and it'll come up there, and it'll be effectively docked up on the top of my screen. Okay, so a lot of tools you can play with here to kind of control what is visible on your screen and what's hiding or what's kind of more private.